On May 5, 2025, President Donald J. Trump sent shockwaves across the nation with a single, momentous announcement. He would be reopening Alcatraz prison. No longer would the infamous island stand as a silent monument to America's penal past. Trump envisioned a revitalized, expanded facility, one that would house the nation's most hardened criminals. Alcatraz, he declared, will once again stand as a symbol of American resolve, a beacon to those who would threaten our safety and security. This was not merely a repurposing of an existing structure. Trump's vision was grander, bolder. He spoke of modernization, of expansion, of creating a facility that would be as inescapable as it was imposing. The message was clear. America was taking a hard line, and Alcatraz would be the ultimate manifestation of that stance. The announcement was met with a mixture of awe and apprehension. For some, it was a return to law and order, a decisive response to a perceived rise in crime and lawlessness. For others, it was a step back into a darker time, a descent into punitive measures that many believed had been consigned to the history books. One thing was certain: the reopening of Alcatraz would have far-reaching consequences, both for the American justice system and for the nation's soul. Alcatraz Island, a forbidding rock jutting out of the icy waters of San Francisco Bay, has long held a grip on the American imagination. For nearly 3 decades, from 1934 to 1963, it served as a federal penitentiary, a place of last resort for the nation's most incorrigible criminals. Men like George Machine Gun Kelly, Al Capone, and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz, all did time within its forbidding walls. Surrounded by treacherous currents and frigid waters, Alcatraz was considered inescapable. The prison boasted a reputation for harsh discipline and an almost monastic silence, designed to break the spirit of even the most hardened criminals. Yet, despite its fearsome reputation, Alcatraz was not without its share of attempted escapes. Over the years, 36 prisoners dared to challenge the island's defenses, their bids for freedom often ending in capture or death. The most famous escape attempt, involving brothers John and Clarence Anglin and fellow inmate Frank Morris, remains shrouded in mystery to this day. Their daring plot, immortalized in the film Escape from Alcatraz, has become part of the island's legend, a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. With its closure in 1963, Alcatraz was transformed from a symbol of confinement to a monument to a bygone era of American justice. Millions of tourists flocked to the island, drawn by its grim history and the stories of the men who both guarded and were imprisoned within its walls. Now, with Trump's decree, Alcatraz was poised to shed its skin once more, to become a battleground in a new era of American justice. The task of reopening Alcatraz prison fell upon a labyrinthine network of federal agencies, each tasked with a specific aspect of the monumental undertaking. The Bureau of Prisons, under the leadership of Director William K. Marshall III, was given the Herculean responsibility of overseeing the project, coordinating the efforts of a multitude of government bodies. The Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Department of Homeland Security were all brought into the fold, their combined resources and expertise deemed essential to the success of the endeavor. Engineers, architects, and security specialists were called upon to assess the island's infrastructure, to draw up plans for the prison's expansion and modernization. Contracts were drawn up, bids were solicited, and a sense of urgency permeated every level of the operation. The logistical challenges were immense. Alcatraz, after all, was an island, separated from the mainland by 1.5 miles of treacherous water. Transporting materials, equipment, and personnel would be a constant hurdle, a test of the government's organizational might. Security, too, was paramount. Alcatraz had to be rendered virtually impregnable, a fortress capable of holding the nation's most dangerous individuals. The reopening of Alcatraz was not simply a matter of unlocking the gates and turning on the lights. It was a massive logistical and bureaucratic undertaking, a test of the government's ability to mobilize its vast resources towards a single controversial goal. The eyes of the nation, indeed the world, were watching, eager to see if the Trump administration could pull it off. The ambitious scope of Trump's plan for Alcatraz immediately raised a critical question: could America afford it? The original Alcatraz, despite its notoriety, was closed in 1963, due in part to its exorbitant operating costs. The logistical complexities of maintaining a maximum security prison on a remote island coupled with the need for extensive renovations, meant that the price tag for Alcatraz 2.0 was certain to be astronomical. Critics of the plan were quick to point out that the Bureau of Prisons was already facing budgetary constraints. Several federal penitentiaries across the country were slated for closure due to lack of funding, making the decision to pour resources into Alcatraz seem even more perplexing. Moreover, the cost of housing prisoners on Alcatraz was projected to be significantly higher than in mainland prisons, a fact that further fueled the debate over the project's financial viability. Proponents of the plan, however, argued that the cost of Alcatraz was justified by its symbolic value. They maintained that the island's reputation as an inescapable fortress would serve as a deterrent to crime, ultimately saving the country money in the long run. They also emphasized the potential for job creation and economic stimulation that the project represented, particularly for the San Francisco Bay Area. The debate over the cost of Alcatraz was not simply about dollars and cents. It was a microcosm of a larger debate about American priorities, about the price of security, and about the role of government in a society grappling with complex social and economic challenges. As the project moved forward, the question of whether America could afford Alcatraz 2.0 remained a subject of intense scrutiny and discussion. Section 5 California cries foul, a sanctuary state's outrage. The announcement of Alcatraz's reopening was met with swift and vocal opposition from California officials. The state, a self-proclaimed sanctuary for undocumented immigrants, had long been at odds with the Trump administration's hardline immigration policies. The decision to repurpose Alcatraz, an iconic landmark within their state, as a tool for immigration enforcement, was seen as a direct affront to California's values and a blatant provocation. Leading the charge against the plan was House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who denounced the move as a colossal waste of taxpayer money and a slap in the face to the people of California. She vowed to fight the Trump administration every step of the way, using all legislative means at her disposal to block funding for the project. Governor Gavin Newsom echoed these sentiments, calling the plan a cynical attempt to resurrect a symbol of fear and division. California's outrage was further fueled by the Trump administration's stated intention to use Alcatraz to detain undocumented immigrants. The state had passed a number of laws aimed at protecting undocumented immigrants from federal immigration enforcement, and the prospect of Alcatraz becoming a federal holding pen for those facing deportation was seen as a direct attack on these efforts. The stage was set for a major legal battle between the federal government and the state of California, a clash that would test the limits of federal power and the resolve of a state determined to resist what it perceived as an assault on its sovereignty and its values. Section 6, Fortress of Deportation, Trump's Immigration Gambit. While the reopening of Alcatraz had captured the nation's attention with its sheer audacity, it was the intended purpose of this revitalized facility that truly ignited a firestorm of controversy. Trump had made it clear that Alcatraz would not merely house hardened criminals, it would also serve as a detention center for undocumented immigrants, a key component in his administration's ongoing efforts to crack down on illegal immigration. This announcement was met with immediate condemnation from immigrant rights groups and civil liberties organizations who denounced the plan as inhumane and a violation of basic human rights. They argued that detaining immigrants seeking asylum or facing deportation in a facility as notorious as Alcatraz was cruel and unusual punishment, a blatant attempt to intimidate and deter those seeking entry into the United States. The decision to use Alcatraz for immigration detention was further complicated by the island's unique legal status. As part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, Alcatraz fell under the jurisdiction of the National Park Service, an agency tasked with preserving cultural and natural resources, not housing detainees. This raised a host of legal questions about the legality of using a national park for such a purpose, questions that were certain to be challenged in court. Trump's Alcatraz Gambit was more than just a policy decision. It was a symbol of his administration's hardline stance on immigration, a concrete manifestation of his determination to fortify America's borders and restrict the flow of undocumented immigrants into the country. The fight over Alcatraz would be about more than just the fate of an island prison. It would be a battle for the soul of America's immigration policy. Section 7. A jail, not a playground. The end of Alcatraz's tranquility. For decades, Alcatraz Island had been a place of pilgrimage, a site where history whispered from crumbling walls and the ghosts of notorious gangsters seemed to lurk around every corner. Tourists from around the globe flocked to the rock, eager to experience its chilling aura and to delve into its captivating past. However, Trump's decree transformed Alcatraz from a solemn historical landmark into a flashpoint of contemporary political debate, shattering its tranquility and forever altering its significance in the American consciousness. No longer would visitors be able to freely explore the island's eerie cell blocks, imagining the lives of those who had been confined there. The haunting silence, broken only by the cries of gulls and the lapping of waves against the island's shores, would be replaced by the sounds of construction, of heightened security measures, and perhaps even the muffled despair of those imprisoned within its walls. The decision to repurpose Alcatraz as a functioning prison sparked outrage among preservationists and historians, who lamented the loss of a national treasure. They argued that the island's historical integrity should be protected, that its transformation into a modern-day penitentiary would irrevocably damage its significance as a site of remembrance and reflection. The debate over Alcatraz's fate was, at its core, a debate about the meaning of history and the importance of preserving the past. It was a question of whether the lessons to be learned from Alcatraz, both about the human capacity for both good and evil, and about the evolution of the American justice system, were worth sacrificing in the name of expediency and political expediency. Section 8. The American Conscience, a Nation Divided on Alcatraz. The proposed reopening of Alcatraz prison cleaved a deep divide through the heart of American society, exposing raw nerves and igniting passions on both sides of the political spectrum. The plan became a lightning rod for deeply rooted anxieties about crime, immigration, and the very nature of American justice. For supporters of the plan, primarily those who had rallied behind Trump's law and order agenda, the reopening of Alcatraz signaled a return to a time when criminals were punished swiftly and severely. They viewed the move as a necessary step in combating what they perceived as a rising tide of lawlessness and a breakdown of social order. Opponents, on the other hand, saw the plan as a dangerous regression, a descent into the kind of punitive measures that had been discredited and discarded decades earlier. They argued that the focus should be on rehabilitation and reintegration, not on warehousing human beings in a place as infamous and psychologically damaging as Alcatraz. The debate over Alcatraz became a proxy for a larger national conversation about the role of government, the balance between security and liberty, and the meaning of justice in a diverse and rapidly changing society. The island, once a symbol of America's penal past, was now a battleground in a cultural and political war that showed no signs of abating. Section 9. A Legacy Tarnished, The Long Shadow of Alcatraz, 2.0. As the sun set on May 5, 2025, casting long shadows across the waters of San Francisco Bay, the future of Alcatraz Island remained uncertain. Would this notorious rock, once a symbol of American justice, become a monument to a new era of mass incarceration and draconian immigration policies? Or would the collective conscience of the nation prevail, ensuring that Alcatraz remained a place of remembrance, a stark reminder of the human cost of punitive justice? The decision to reopen Alcatraz had far-reaching implications, not only for the prisoners who might one day find themselves confined within its walls, but also for the soul of America itself. It raised profound questions about the balance between security and liberty, about the treatment of the most vulnerable members of society, and about the legacy America wished to leave for future generations. The world watched with bated breath as the drama of Alcatraz 2.0 unfolded, a drama that transcended the realm of politics and law, cutting to the very core of what it meant to be American. The legacy of Alcatraz, once a cautionary tale about the excesses of the American penal system, was now being rewritten in real time, and the outcome remained shrouded in uncertainty. Only time would tell what the long shadow of Alcatraz 2.0 would cast upon the American landscape. Thanks for stopping by today, Hot Reels. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give it a like. Your support helps us bring you more amazing content. Please stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Pinterest, and Threads for the latest updates and trending reels. Subscribe now and be part of the fun.